Welcome to It's Been How Long? The podcast about Cherry Hill High School East students from the late 1970s and early 80s. This is Kara Siegel. So I'd like to welcome in Dave Brawley to the It's Been How Long podcast studio. Hey, Dave.
Hey, how are you, Kara?
I'm doing well. Thanks for agreeing to be on the podcast today.
Yeah, thanks for having me.
So it's been 43 years since we graduated and left the halls of Cherry Hill High School East. So what are you up to?
So for the past 39 years, I had to think about that. It's almost been 39 years. I've lived in Richmond, Virginia, and I've lived here for all those years, other than 5 when I lived in Fredericksburg. Have been married for 34 years. Have a 31-year-old daughter and a 27-year-old daughter. The older one is married and just had our first grandchild back in May.
Mazel tov.
So yeah, thanks. And so it's been all good. After we graduated high school, I went to Montclair State for a year.
That's in Jersey? Is that in Jersey?
It is. It's upstate New Jersey, in Montclair, New Jersey. And then swam there for a year. Decided that wasn't my cup of tea anymore, and then transferred to James Madison down in Harrisonburg, Virginia, which is kind of where I started my Virginia journey. So, and then from a work perspective, I work for Wells Fargo. I'm a senior credit officer in our middle market commercial group. I've been here my whole career, not all with Wells Fargo, but I've never had to change jobs. It's just through bank mergers. So,
Wow. So currently you're living in Richmond.
Living in Richmond.
All right. The West End, the Fan, since I had a
Sure.
little experience there.
So the West End out in the Short Pump area.
Oh, okay. Yeah.
So when I first moved here, it was a 2-lane road with lots of trees and forest area, and it looks nothing like that anymore. So
Yeah.
So similar. You think about the growth in Cherry Hill. I know when I was growing up, it was just starting to be developed, and you head back there now, and it's there's no green space.
Right.
Seems like, but
sure. So
yeah.
how do you enjoy spending your time?
So
when you're not being a grandpa or
yeah, or
that's got to be enjoyable.
It is. It's been real nice. It's been real nice. So we like to get together with family and friends. We have for the past 3 years, we've had a place down at Lake Gaston, which is on the border of Virginia and North Carolina. I enjoy following JMU football. So go Dukes. And then
good season.
It's really good season. Really, really fun with seeing college game day there and seeing the crowds there. My daughter actually went back for the game and was there for the whole experience. So it was that was pretty neat. And then from a fun perspective, the thing I really like doing is mountain bike riding. So
nice.
Yeah.
So did you do any of that back in high school?
So I did not. So I started mountain bike riding, but we went to Mountain Lake, which is in the southwestern part of Virginia. Most people would know it because that's where they filmed Dirty Dancing. And so went on a bike ride there and was heading down this trail, and a flock of wild turkeys came across my path. And it was really fascinating because the tom turkey jumped up on a log, act like it was injured, while the rest of his flock went off into the woods. And then all of a sudden he didn't seem injured anymore and bolted off. And so I was like, if I can have experiences like that, I'll take this as an exercise venue any day of the week. So.
Oh, that sounds great. Sounds great.
Yeah. Fun.
Have you gone anywhere? Do you just go around home, or do you actually go do some traveling to mountain bike? Or
so mostly around here. We've got within 30 minutes of my house, I've got 4 different places that I can go. I have traveled some. So we were out in Moab at Arches National Park, and I took a half-day trip out there. And then one of the things that I traveled for was I got into off-road triathlons for a while, and went out to qualified for the national championships in the off-road triathlons, and did that at Lake Tahoe.
Oh, wow, nice.
Yeah, so that was actually a really interesting experience because they filmed it for a TV show.
Oh.
And so for folks that have done triathlons, you usually start the swim in waves.
Mhm.
So you're say the people 40 and over, men all go off at one time, and so there's usually 4, 5, 6 different waves of people. This one you had everybody going off at the same time,
Mhm.
and they also had pros there, and some of the pros had just gotten back from being at the Olympics.
Oh, wow.
And then as we're standing there, a helicopter flies over about, I don't know, 100 yards above us, flying out over the lake, turns around, and it was part of the TV show that they were filming. So I'm on the TV program for that much of a period of time. So
Your 15 milliseconds of fame.
that's right. That's right. My wife and daughter were on it more than I was cheering on. So
Oh, that's great.
yeah.
So what did you used to do back in high school for enjoyment and activities?
So mostly it was sports for me. I played football and swam.
All right. And did you have a job back in high school?
So I did. My senior year, I worked at Holly Ravine convenience store. So they had a little milk convenience store, I guess cold cut place. So
Mhm.
did that. And then during the summers, one summer I was employed by the Cherry Hill Recreation Department and coached softball and arts and crafts kind of stuff. And then another year was employed by the school district, and we went around and put sand all around the playground equipment and did various handyman type jobs during the summer for the school.
Yeah, yeah. That being employed by the Cherry Hill recreation department, I taught tennis. So
Okay.
I
Yeah.
remember that. So did you belong to any clubs or do any, class activities, or just pretty much the football and swimming?
Yeah, it was pretty much football and swimming. So
Yeah.
it was
So when I was talking to Rob Thurston, I realized that our swim team was pretty good back then.
yeah, so it's been interesting. Both the swim team was really good. So the swim team. So I always thought that our senior year, that our swim team, that it was a disaster of a year,
Mm.
and it was a disaster because we lost one dual meet and came in second in the state championships. Because
Yeah.
prior to that, for the previous time from freshman year on, we'd never lost a dual meet, and actually won the state championship every year. We were very dominant. So much so that when we went on some trips, to like Tom's River or some of those places where you're in a bus for a long period of time, the coaches would have a little, trivia games and whatnot, and whether you got to answer the trivia question correctly or didn't get it right, somebody would get to pick what event you swam in. So if you were traditionally a freestyler, people would, who were freestylers, all of a sudden were doing breaststroke. And so as part of that whole process, I did get to dive one time.
Oh,
And
wow.
I am not a diver. I can assure you of that.
But you guys were
And
that dominant that they would just randomly pick, all
yep.
right, Dave Brawley, you've never dove in your life, or you've done a little bit. We're going to make you do the flipping and turning and piking and
all that sort of stuff. And so the interesting part is one of the referees, I think he recognized me from football. And So after it was clear that I was, not doing well at all. So one of the dives, you come out and they give you your scores, and it was, like a 1, and the one guy gave me an 8 because he knew I was so far behind that there was no way that I was going to be that was going to influence the overall score. So
Oh, you got pity points.
yeah, that's it. That's it.
Oh, that's interesting.
Yeah, it was one of those experiences that it's nice to have that in the rearview mirror.
Yeah. Oh, that's
Yeah.
a great story though.
Yeah.
That you guys were so good, you just got to randomly pick what you swam.
Yeah,
So
I think I read somewhere that it was like 9 out of 10 years that
oh
Cherry
wow.
Hill East won the state championship. So
Cherry Hill East, who had no swimming pool.
that's right. Well, it was everybody who swam Wahoos.
Okay.
So,
All right. I gotcha.
yeah.
So you've traveled to Moab, anywhere else in the country? Have you done some travel?
Yeah, so one of the places we like to go to are the national parks. So I think we've been to about a quarter of the national parks
Yeah, that's great.
that are out there. Really liked Glacier, Volcano National Park, Arches, Acadia,
Yeah.
and then traveled some with work, mostly down in the southeast, and then went to Germany before we had kids, and most recently went on a river cruise from Basel to Amsterdam, and so that was actually a lot of fun. I'd do that again. I'd do that again anytime.
Yeah, I've heard river cruises can be, they're not the big massive, you know,
Right.
party cruise thing. It's they're a lot nicer, I guess, in a way.
Yeah. So the one thing we found is we were some of the younger people on the boat, or on the trip, but the other piece was the cruise line we were on was it was not Viking, which we've heard the Viking crowd is much older than us.
Okay.
So
All
yeah,
right.
walkers next to the boat and stuff, and not interested in making sure that we stay active. So
Yeah. Um, so was there a class or a teacher or an experience through East or related to it that influenced you beyond your high school days?
yeah, so the one that I would say was there was a 1 semester or half a year class. It was forensic science.
Hmm.
And I don't know how often it was offered, but it was, and I can't remember the teacher's name, but I know that in the next year or two after I had that class, that he left and went to the FBI Academy.
Oh wow.
And so it was kind of now everybody knows it as like the CSI kind of stuff, but it was really interesting. And they're kind of solving problems, solving mysteries or so. I relate a little bit of that to what I do at work now, in terms of looking at a company and trying to figure out are they going to continue to be viable, and how can we help them in their capital structure.
Oh, that's cool. Did you have a high school sweetheart?
So Celine Flynn and I dated when we were juniors, and then we didn't for a good part of our senior year, and then I think, as best I can recall, I think we decided to go to prom together and started dating a little bit before we headed off to college. So.
All right. And so your sweetest sweetheart, you said you've been married for 34 years?
Correct. Yeah.
Yeah. And
Yeah.
and where'd you all meet?
So we met here in Richmond. So so I was in a business fraternity at JMU, which had both men and women in it, and saw one of her friends, one of my fraternity friends, and so I introduced my friends to her, and she, of course, didn't introduce me to any of her friends. And then saw her later on, and it's the one and only quote unquote blind date that I had. So
And the rest is history.
that's right. That's right.
That's great.
It's been great. So
wonderful.
yeah.
You have friends from East you're still in touch with?
So two primarily. So Barb Stewart Hogue and I talk every once in a while. She actually came to my daughter's wedding. And then John Cannon and I still keep in contact with each other. I actually missed a call from him this morning, and last month we were actually together out in Utah, and then ended it seeing the U2 concert out in Las Vegas. So,
very nice. Very nice.
Yeah, so that was a lot of fun.
Well, is John on Facebook? You got to tell him to give us a call and come sit in the chair.
Yeah.
So is there anyone you were tight with that you lost touch with?
So the only person that I can think of that I have no idea where they are is John Hartman. So I know so we played football together. We were in a math class, I remember, together. And the math teacher asked us to do a project for her at her house. And then he went to the Naval Academy. And then after that, I have no idea. No idea what happened to him. But other than that, the folks that I knew and whatnot, we'll keep in contact through either on Facebook or Christmas cards or things like that.
Do you have any standout memories from high school?
So I would say most of them were sports related. The one, I guess the one football related one, we came in second in the state championships my junior year. And the first time I got put into a game was the first game that we were playing against Woodrow Wilson, and our defense was not doing great, and Woodrow Wilson was heading down the field toward their first score. And Bo Wood kind of grabbed me and said, "Get in there." And so I went in, and the first person that I tackled was Mike Rozier, who turned out to be the 1983 Heisman Trophy winner.
I was going to say.
So, yeah. It did not turn out.
So did you tackle or just hang on for dear life?
So it was a little bit of hanging on for dear life. My job was, whoever came through the line, I was responsible for tackling, and he didn't have the football, but if he did, he would have scored because I hit him in what I would think would be a picture perfect tackle, and he just ran right over me. So
well,
he was a man playing with boys.
Yeah, it was foretelling of his future career there.
Without a doubt. So
that's quite the memory.
Yeah, that certainly was. So
yeah. So is there anything you wish classmates knew about you then or now?
So not necessarily about me per se, but I would say kind of as I've listened to some of these podcasts and as I've thought about different things, I just think we were really lucky in terms of the way that with some of the advantages that we had at our school, thinking about the special classes that you could take, like a forensic science, the Spirit Week, the carnations they used to do at Valentine's Day. So my father was a school teacher in Philadelphia.
Mm-hmm.
And when I would tell him, different things that were going on at our school, and he would be like, "Really?" Like he was surprised at all the different advantages that we had with it. And then I think as a result of that foundation that we all got. You think about, all the successes that you've heard about through the people you've interviewed here. It's I think we had a pretty special group of people that we were around, both as part of the school and as classmates.
Yeah, well said. So have you ever been back to the building?
So my sister lives in the same neighborhood that I grew up in, and she has 3 sons, and her middle son was a wrestler.
Yeah.
And so one time when we were up there in January, he had a wrestling match, and so we were able to head back in and go into the gym and watch him in his wrestling match.
What did it feel like?
Since I guess I've been in my kids' high schools and such, the size didn't really surprise me, but it was nothing really that stood out, either good or bad. So.
All right, so we're back in 1980, and you've just graduated. You're looking out 40 years. Did you think this is where you'd be?
So no, because I didn't think that I couldn't have imagined that I'd be, in one place for so long, and that it would be here in Virginia, and really didn't have any idea what I was going to be doing when I headed off to college. I think I started as a math major, and then somewhere along the way got into finance, and just kind of happened to stumble into banking. So, but it's been good.
That's great. Did you have a dream job back in high school that you sort of thought maybe it wasn't football linebacker, I'm guessing?
Well, if it was delusional. At 175 pounds in high school, it wouldn't have worked real well. Nothing that I can really think of. If you put it in a rear view mirror, I would do the same thing that I'm doing now, just because in my job, I get to learn about all sorts of different businesses and get to see everything from bakeries to, those big pipe manufacturers, to Caterpillar dealers, to service industries, and get to learn about all sorts of different pieces of the economy, and see how people actually make money and employ people. So
that's great. So, best piece of advice that you would give your 18-year-old self, or maybe you gave your 18-year-old kids?
I would say, as you don't focus on the negatives, focus on finding the positives out of any of your perceived negatives. Like I was mentioning earlier, thought that our swim team was a disaster of a year. Well, it's kind of ridiculous when you think about that. Well, you lost one dual meet and came in second in the state championships. How many people have that opportunity? But for a long period of time, I thought that wasn't real good. So you have to really find the positives in any sort of setbacks that you think you're going through.
Yeah, that's good advice for all of us.
Yeah. Still have to remind myself of it sometimes.
Yeah. All right, so we've reached our fast and furious finish. And so did you have a TV show, a favorite TV show, or a favorite movie, or a favorite book from back during high school days?
So TV show, the only one that I can really think about would have been MASH.
Yeah.
Just as popular as it was. And the only movie that I remember was Animal House. And I remember that I was at the Jersey Shore with Greg Deegan, and we went with some folks and saw that, and clearly I've seen it a couple times since. But
yeah. All right. Did you have a favorite musical group or artist or genre?
So it would have been rock.
Mhm.
And I remember folks were very into Bruce Springsteen, and on the swim team, a lot of people were really into Pink Floyd.
Mhm.
And at the time, I just wasn't into either of those. Really come to appreciate them since. But the group that I enjoyed in high school was Queen.
Oh yeah. Oh, awesome. Yeah.
Yeah, it's interesting. Back then, they weren't as popular as they turned out to be later on. But
Yeah, they had a yeah. Yeah. I see that.
yeah.
Favorite place to eat or hang out with friends during high school?
So the only place that I can recall is Papagala's, which was a little pizza place, and actually on Crescent Road, pretty close to where I lived. But that was about it that I recall. I don't remember.
So is it still there? Do you have any idea if it's still there?
I don't. I think it's been long gone.
Oh, okay.
It's
A
been
lot of
long gone.
places.
Yeah,
Yeah. So, all right, here we go. Remember this guy?
a lot of hair. A
No
lot of
quote.
hair.
Like your picture?
Yep. It is what it is. It's I do remember that I wasn't a big fan of like, I'm really glad that long hair is kind of out, because long hair for me didn't seem like it did real well. So
Okay. All right. So this is where I had been asking about the yearbook, but we've kind of gotten a lot of feedback about what that is. So I've decided to ask a new question.
okay.
What language did you take at East, and did you ever find it useful?
So I would took Spanish and I muddled through, and I can assure you that the answer is no. I never found it useful because I couldn't say anything other than, como se llama and hola. That's about the only thing that I've ever took out of foreign language. So
Okay.
unfortunately,
Yeah.
yeah.
All right. So, lastly, anything you want to tell anybody who might be listening from our class or who's listening to these podcasts?
Just what I would say is, I was mentioning to Kara earlier. I really had found these interesting. I wasn't sure whether or not I was wanted to participate with it, and then as I thought about it and have seen some of the other ones, I just think it's interesting to hear what other folks are doing. And then as I've thought about it, some of these questions you just would never have the opportunity really to talk to your kids about, at some point your grandchild, right? So it's an opportunity for people to hear about what I've been up to, but then also kind of a little bit of an oral history for your family.
Yeah, that's great.
Yeah.
Well, Dave, I can't thank you enough for joining me today. I really
Sure.
appreciate it.
Yeah, thanks so much.
All right. Well, you
All right.
enjoy the upcoming holiday season,
Thank
and
you.
yeah, stay in touch.
Okay, very good. Merry Christmas.
Yeah, happy holidays. Take care.
All right.
Thanks for joining me on It's Been How Long? The podcast about Cherry Hill High School East students from the late 1970s and the early 80s. A shout out to my cousin Brad Corbett, whose podcast We Weren't Friends in High School inspired me to do this podcast, and whose advice and encouragement have been so helpful. Thanks also to my husband, Randy Coughdale, who read all the fine print on the podcast hosting website so I wouldn't have to. And thanks to Jeff Lyons, content consultant and guinea pig, and to Deborah Smead, also content consultant. And thank you to all our classmates who are listening in. See you next week.